Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Earlier today being April the 16th, 2025, there was a fundraiser in London. It was called Michael's Mile, and it was named after Michael Watson, and the fundraiser was for the Eye, Neuro, Brain and Spine Foundation. This is an organisation, a charity, which does what it says on the tin. It's a brain and spine neurological charity. Michael Watson, as most of you will be aware, was badly injured by Eubank Sr in a 1991 rematch fight, suffered life-changing injuries, had to learn to speak, walk, do literally everything again. And he can walk with some help. But he, for the last 34 years, he spent his life in a very, very altered condition to what he was prior to that fight. Now, if you've seen the rematch, you will know that Michael basically beat the crap out of Eubank Sr for 10 rounds and 2 minutes, 30 seconds, something like that, and then got floored with an uppercut towards the end of the 11th, and then in the 12th he got stopped, and the real battle began. But the founder of the charity, Peter Hamlin, is the neurosurgeon who saved Michael. And they have become firm friends over the last 3.5 decades. Now, interestingly, this Michael's Mile, this walk, it started at Wellington Arch in London, and they walked to, was it Horse Guards? I did a video on this, I can't remember. Anyway, wherever it was widely attended, as you would expect, by former boxers. Derek Sweet D. Williams was there, a few others, but most notably of all, Eubank Sr was there, who of course was, the man whose fists put Michael into a coma and changed his life forever. Now, the two are friends, and Chris walked in front of Michael. Michael had his hand on Chris's shoulder, and they walked. There's footage of this from IFL and Seconds Out and a few of the others. But Eubank was interviewed by IFL, by Seconds Out, by a few others, and was really passionate in talking about not just his son's upcoming fight with Conor Benn, but the way that promoters treat fighters, the fact that there are rules and regulations in boxing. So you've heard the cliche weight divisions for a reason, that making weight is an extremely dangerous thing, which it is. And he was scathing. He was really angry about, and passionate. I suppose, anger mixed in with passion. And he spoke, I didn't agree with everything he said. I think he was perhaps reaching on one or two of the minor points, but generally speaking, his comments about the fact that fighters put their lives on the line, and what happened to Michael, it's happened to other fighters since. Of course, we know that fighters have been killed in the ring. Every year, there's at least a couple that die. And Chris was saying that it isn't just about death; it's about what they used to call punch drunkenness. The current PC term is CTE, brain trauma, basically. And then he talked about Conor Benn versus his son, Chris Eubank Jr. And Chris Sr. said he was absolutely scathing about both these fighters. He said that he didn't blame Conor Benn for the PED thing. He thinks that he was set up. He didn't elaborate, but he said he thought Conor was set up. This is an area where I disagree. I don't think he was set up at all. I think that's conspiratorial nonsense. But whether he knew there was anything in his system or not is a different matter. But he being Eubank Sr, was equally scathing about his own son. Whereas he said that Conor Benn was embarrassing himself and with his foul language and not behaving in a noble way, he kept saying, we are not baboons, meaning, we are a civilized bunch. This is Great Britain. We have to treat ourselves with respect. We have to behave like, in a noble way. He used the word noble a few times in a few different interviews. Whereas he had a go at Conor's language, foul language, which he didn't like. When it came to his son, Junior, he said, look, this. At one point in one of the interviews, I think it was the Seconds Out one, he was asked, would you be in your son's corner? And he said, no, of course I wouldn't. He said, look at what my son did. And he was really condemning of the egg incident where Eubank Jr. slapped Conor with the egg. And he said, that's unforgivable. That's an appalling bit of behaviour. You didn't learn that from me. You didn't learn that from your mother. And he also said of his son, you care more about money than you do about, what Chris Sr. always calls it, the warrior's code, doesn't he? He said, no, you care more about money. He basically said, look, you're a bling man, and you're after the money, and that's it. That's all you really care about. You're not living the life of a proper fighter. And Chris Senior, I followed his career pretty much from the start. He had his first 5 fights in America, which I didn't see, but I became aware of him long before he started winning belts, and long before he first fought Nigel Benn. They had 2 fights, of course. But I thought then, this is a guy who seems to regard boxing as being almost a Western martial art. It's more than just a combat sport. It's got as much to do with emotion and the psychology of it and the cerebral perspective of what you're doing. It's as it has with actually fighting. And I don't know a great deal about martial arts, but if you go east and you look at a lot of what is taught, it is about attitude, spirituality, which is a sort of kind of a catch-all phrase, but I'm going to use it anyway. It's not just about people beating each other up. And Eubank Sr. has always sort of viewed boxing as this. He did once famously say that boxing is a mug's game. And he mentioned this quote, which is from 34 years ago, whatever it was. I think he said it prior to when Michael Watson was injured. So it may be about 35 years ago he first used this quote. And he resurrected it and said, I said it then and I say it now. And Michael, who he described as the personification of inspiration, is a living sign that it's a mug's game. Now, Chris didn't stop there. Who was there walking along with Chris and Michael Watson? Chris, like I say, walking in front, and Michael supporting himself by holding on to Chris's shoulder. But to the left of Michael was none other than the great man himself, Gareth A. Davies. He was there too. Obviously wanting to put his face, where the cameras were. Hello, it's me, Gareth. Woo. But he may have regretted that because Chris turned to him on more than one occasion and on more than one point of the little walk they were doing and said, you have a responsibility. You are in a position of power, a privileged position. You're a journalist. You should be speaking out against the exploitation of fighters, promoters, what they do with these fighters. He also didn't stop there. He went after Barry Hearn. He said, Barry, I always thought you were a gentleman. I made Matchroom. He means Matchroom boxing, but I made Matchroom boxing is what he meant. I was the one that you gave me the opportunity, but I made you. You helped me, but I made Matchroom boxing. And now look at what's happening. And he was referring to Eddie Hearn. You gave it to one of your family members, meaning Eddie. And look at what he's doing. And he was talking about Eubank Jr. being dragged down to 160, which he said is obscene. And yeah, okay. Hearn, no doubt, was involved in the contract, or maybe it was Frank Smith, I don't know. But Hearn, the buck stops with him because he is is he the CEO? I forget his exact official title of Matchroom Boxing. But yeah, he was involved in the negotiations. But his fighter was actually Conor Benn. It's not Eubank Jr. Eubank Jr. is his own man. So, but Chris Sr. was saying, no, you're involved. You're one of the promoters. Therefore, the buck stops with you. And I haven't got a problem with that mindset. He was saying, but my son is being dragged down to 160. And he described the whole thing as a disgrace, was the word. It's a disgrace. So he kind of had a go at everyone, Chris did. He just went into one. And he didn't speak. At one point, he even became emotional and started crying when he was talking about, I think, Junior and making the weight. And don't forget, Chris Sr. has lost a son already. Sebastian Eubank passed away, who is Chris's younger brother. Chris Jr. is the oldest. And then during one of the interviews, he was asked about the fight itself, not the brouhaha surrounding it, but the fight itself. And Senior said, "It won't go ahead. I don't believe it will go ahead. I don't believe it will be allowed to go ahead." That's kind of a bold statement because we're only, 10 days away from it, something like that. But he's adamant it won't go ahead. I think maybe that's wishful thinking on behalf of Eubank Sr. But can you imagine if it didn't go ahead? How about that for a little bit of Nostradamus work from Chris Eubank Sr.? But anyway, you can watch all these interviews with Eubank Sr. on YouTube. I watched them this afternoon, and it does make for some quite sort of vitriolic, emotional viewing. But go and have a look at it, see what you think. Just go on YouTube, watch a couple of these, sort of 6, 7, 8 minute interviews, and you can see a man who, I think underneath everything, is very, very concerned for his son because of the weight. Weirdly enough, in another interview, he said that if his son fought Canelo at 168, he'd pick his son to win. So Chris is someone who, and he quite rightly said, I've made weight. I know what the trials and tribulations are of it. It's a dangerous, dangerous thing, making weight, if you're going down to an unnatural weight. But yeah, let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Have a look at the videos, see what you think. And thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. And are you looking forward to this fight? Maybe you are. The closer we get, the more intrigued I am by it, because I think the weight, and it is down to the weight, because Conor Benn moving up, it might turn out to be a luxury. I know he's jumping 2 weights, which is a hell of a jump. But if Eubank Jr. is weak at 160, for some reason I can't get out of my head Oscar De La Hoya versus Manny Pacquiao. Maybe I'm missing the mark with that one, but have a think. Tell me what you think. Comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button and spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. I always appreciate your time. Thank you very, very much, and I will catch you later. Bye for now.